Hello, I'm Matthew. When I tell people that I work as a simultaneous interpreter, the reply I often get is there a history of mental illness in your family? When we start out in our careers, we suffer from imposter syndrome. The speakers and delegates know what they're talking about, but we feel out of our depth most of the time. So I'm trying to sound competent as I interpret the company's accounts. I'm 23 years old. I've never managed anything except my own pocket money. And now all these people are in the room, at least 20 years older than me. It's like being trapped with a lot of especially dull friends of my parents. Except I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about. They put their headphones on and look slightly sceptical and confused. And I know I am a failure, and I will never be able to do this. Then, as time goes by, we do pick up a few tricks. By dint of repetition, we do begin to get an idea of what we're talking about. We listen to more experienced colleagues and pick up some tricks from them, and then from time to time they come a cropper as well, and then we can put everything in perspective and see that it's not always our fault that some speeches are just difficult to interpret. And then, just when it feels as though everything's more or less under control, we decide to add another language. And this is where imposter syndrome pays us another visit. And this time, deep down, we fear that it may be quite justified. And this is chapter 1 of our mid-career crisis. I've always had these voices in my head all day, but now it started getting worse. Today, I couldn't understand what they were saying. The second chapter of our emotional and professional unravelling takes place outside the booth. We all know interpreters who are a bit weird. I know one who writes imaginary train timetables and pretends he's learning Chinese. What a nutter. There are musicians, actors, researchers, painters, bell ringers, barristers, stand-up comedians, as well as those who are occupied in their spare time with gardening, pets, children, or swingers' parties in Luxembourg. You know who you are. But the weirdest of all are people for whom interpreting is their life. And as we realise that half of our career may be behind us, we stop to take stock of where we've got to. We're getting a little bit better every day in every way, except when they speak that new language that we've just added. We can boast about the famous people we've rubbed shoulders with. That day they said the interpretation was better than the original. That day a delegate made a pass at us. Maybe we get promoted. Maybe we get to boss other interpreters around and get to do admin instead of being in the booth. Woohoo! We've made it! Maybe we start sharing our pearls of wisdom with those poor, insecure students and beginners who feel like imposters, magnanimously sharing some do's and don'ts with them and giving the impression that we really must know what we're talking about. Basically, I think training is a very gratifying activity. Not for the sake of the students, but because it makes me feel good about myself. Suddenly, I'm surrounded by clever, beautiful, enthusiastic young people whose job it is to pretend to look interested in what I think about things. The third chapter of our breakdown comes if we don't get an outlet for our own opinions. Like in the saying, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, we are suffering from always the messenger, never the speaker syndrome. Because we become the speaker in another language, it's quite natural that over our careers we should learn a thing or two about diplomacy, about how to chair meetings, and of course we consider ourselves experts at speaking our mother tongue. I'll tell you what they should do. I'll tell you how they should have chaired that discussion. I'll tell you the idiom he was looking for there. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Lithuania has the floor. No, sorry, Latvia. No, sorry, the interpreter apologises. Lithuania. Meetings can begin to seem routine, and one's mind can wander. Those in favour? And you won't believe this, but in the hotel the central heating only had 2 settings, those against. And what's worse, they don't even seem to realise you don't necessarily want a 4-course meal every evening, do you? Abstentions? So then the Scotsman comes back into the bar with the goat, with the rapporteur here to comment, and then the 3 nurses come running back out with the baby oil. Got another question from the floor. Yes, when will it be published? And then they rub the baby oil into the Scotsman's bald head. I'd just like to give the floor to my expert for a moment, if I may. After a full day in the booth, I feel like my brain's been taken out and stamped on. Of course, one way to remember the 4 main rivers that flow into the Black Sea is that they all begin with D. The Danube, the Dniestra, the Dniepr, and the Don. You don't have to be mad to work here. But it helps.